In this lesson, we're going to bring this into Mudbox and do some work on the seams in our model. And what I've done is I've sent this to Mudbox, and I'm getting an unable to export some materials. The MIA wood is going to be a gray Lambert. That's actually a good thing. We want that. So I'm going to go over to Mudbox, and I'll see I've got problems detected in the imported mesh. There's nothing fatal here, so I'm just going to choose Keep All, and it will show up like so. What I want to do is I'm going to isolate the body, because I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to press... I'm basically, because it's got a Lambert on it, I'm going to go to my paint layers, and I'm going to import my layer, and I'm just going to import this, the wood color ×2, and I'm going to import it into the diffuse channel. Okay, and so there's my wood texture, and I'm going to press Shift D to smooth things out, and I'm going to do that because I'm going to see that I am going to have some issues. Like, for example, the wood grain here doesn't quite look right, and in the tail, and to a certain extent on the end, and in the cockpit, and on the front here. So what I want to do is I'm going to use my clone stamp tool down in the paint tools, and I'm going to shrink my brush quite a bit, and I'm going to use a fall off brush about, you know, one of the brushes where we've got a goodly amount of fall off. Now, to use the clone stamp, I'm option rotating my view, but to use the clone stamp, I'm going to control click, and I'm just going to draw it across like so to change my wood grain. And what I'm doing in this operation is I am not looking for the perfect grain pattern, because I don't really have time to go to be, you know, basically perfect. What I want is I want this to hide any sharp lines where there's a really big transition. So I can grab from here and pull it in like so, and I can smooth things out a bit. And what it's doing, it's important to note that basically what it's doing is it's doing a screen projection, and it's pulling from that screen projection. It's not lifting from one part of the texture to the other. Okay, so by lifting and then painting, you can see what it's doing is it's just pushing it straight on back, which may not be what we want, but it will work. And if you go offside, it's going to paint with that gray on there, which I don't think anybody wants. All right, so basically that's the operation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and I'm going to take care of the other parts of the body. And when we're done, I'm going to want to spend some time on maybe some of the other objects, and then I'm going to talk about how we can use this one particular map as our as a bump, and how we can go about doing that. So let me go ahead and pause this. Okay, so I'm basically done. I've changed the wood grain, gotten rid of the seams, at least the really drastic ones. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to unisolate, and I'm going to go looking for more. Here's some issues here in the landing gear. So I will select these two and press Shift D to smooth them out. I've also got wheel issues. So nice thing about this is what we can do is we can, because it's screen projection, we can just click from one part of the model and hide these seams. I'll deselect that. Do the same thing here. And deselect. And bring them down like so. Now I do have a really gruesome seam in the back of the rudder. So that one I'm going to just get rid of these lines so that they don't show. Okay, and that's looking pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, so I've created this texture. Now what I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and save my file. And given that this is 27, I'll go ahead and leave it. I'll go to 27 underscore mud dot mud. And I'm going to also export this color map. Okay, so I'm going to go to export selected, and I'm going to go down to source images and wood color to final, and I'll save it as go ahead and save it as a TIFF, 8-bit. Click save. Okay, so now I've got this texture. What I'm going to do now is I want to use it to my advantage. So I'm going to go to wood, and I'm going to duplicate the selected, and I'm going to take that copy and I'm going to move it to the bump map. Okay, and that's going to look pretty gruesome. So I will pull this down so that it is not as heavy a bump as it seems. Now, a lot of that is kind of specular, but it does have a nice look to it. Now, what I want to do with this wood bump is I want to solo it as diffuse, and I'll see, hey, wait, it's just basically it's basically a color map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to adjust color, and I'm going to change it to black and white. And then I'm going to change it to more contrast. Actually, more contrast is what I want. Actually, I'll do it as black and white. One more time. Adjust color, select the preset black and white, and click OK. And then I'm going to do it again. Adjust color, and I'm going to increase the contrast by manipulating these curves and click OK. Then I'm going to unsolo so that we can see that what we've done is we've increased that a little bit. And so that can be our bump map. So I'm going to export this as well. And I'll call this wood color final BMP, or bump. The other thing we can do is we can use the wood texture. I can create a duplicate, and then I can send this duplicate to a specular. Make a specular map out of it. And you can see that when it does that, it makes it look very golden, which is nice. But I can adjust my color here, and I can start to play with the hue. Okay. I can inverse my color to give it more of a shiny color. I'll make sure that comes back. And I can de-emphasize that a little bit if I like, and click OK. And if I solo it, I get kind of an interesting looking color. That's that blue, and that can pull things up and punch up the specular component of your color. And so the last thing I'll do there, and again, I may not use it. It may not look right in Maya, but I have it. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So let's go to export selected, and we'll do that final spec. Okay, so in this lesson, we actually accomplished a lot. We've made our bump map. We've made our seams. We've taken the seams out of our maps, and we've made our bump map, and we've also made opened up the possibility of a specular map. And in the next lesson, we will spend a little bit of time and create some extra designs on here. Again, something that we can look at we may again use and we may not.